right. I think I have gone live. I'm streaming to you guys, and I'm going to go for an hour, I think, hour and a half. Normally, every time I say an hour, it's 2 hours. So who knows how long we're going to be going. But I'm going to be taking your questions and giving you answers wherever things kind of go. I am open to it. It's been a pretty exciting last little week. Last weekend, I spoke out of town, did a couple talks about an hour down the road, and I was pretty tired on Sunday, and so I couldn't do like a full video cut for Monday, and so I sat down to shoot some quick thoughts based on some conversations I'd been having on Twitter recently about Venom and critics and why there's such a big gap and kind of how interesting it is that there is such a gigantic gap between the critics' thoughts on it and the audience thoughts on it. And then that video's exploded. It's like the biggest video I've had since May, back when all of the Marvel stuff was coming out. And it's still going strong. And so all week long, I've been talking about critics and Venom and having a bunch of very, very lively discussions about that one. And I mean, just tons of new people. So maybe some new people will be here in this stream, which would be very cool. And if you're here, thank you so much for tuning in. Get a little bit of flavor for who I am. My wife's going to come in here and join me and start running the chat board and taking the questions a little bit. I put up a post up on my community tab, telling you guys I was going to be doing this a little bit earlier today. A few people threw up some over some questions, so I'm going to head on over, answer some of those questions that were posted earlier while I wait for my wife to come in, and she'll introduce herself, and then she'll start asking away on some questions. So without further delay, let's go ahead and get started on this. Super Jordan Reviews asked, who are your favorite Pixar directors? Easily, I'm going to go with Brad Bird. Brad Bird, just is such a vibrant style. It's like what he did with The Incredibles, that they have very cool shot action, but such a distinct look to the way that they're done. With The Incredibles having kind of this retro throwback vibe to it, while also feeling modern. I mean, just all of it just has a distinct style to it. And then he made a movie about a rat that's a chef that's on top of a guy's head, and he pulled it off. So that's incredible to me. So I'm a big fan of Brad Bird. That's a guy that I want to see direct a Star Wars movie. He was my pick to do The Force Awakens. Obviously, that's not what happened, but he was my pick. So Brad Bird, pretty easily for me. Stephen Peck says, what is your favorite Martin Scorsese film? I'll be honest with you guys. I'm not a Scorsese-ophile or anything like that. I'm not like a master of Scorsese. He's not one of the people that I throw in all the time, and so I've seen all of his. It's nothing like that. I've seen a lot of his films spread over a lot of time. The one that's probably most interesting is Taxi Driver, just that anti-hero, dark, kind of twisted turn, ultra-violence, creepy sort of film. That's the one that I generally gravitate towards if I were to pick one. Several people keep at one of the most common things I've been getting recently in these Q&As. People always ask me, am I going to do what are my Avengers 4 predictions, theories, all that fun stuff. I'm planning on doing one of those videos in the very near future with my buddy Andy. We've already talked about it. We almost did it 2 weeks ago. Then we did a couple of those Venom videos instead. But we already have notes and been discussing kind of putting one out. I want to put one out before we know anything, a title, trailer, anything, based purely on what we already know and kind of the little rumors out there. And so then when the everything else comes out, we can put a second one on and kind of build on our past and everything that we've kind of built on thus far. But I plan on doing some Avengers predictions. I've got notes, but it's a video that's coming in the future. DNTHCHNO, I'm sure I botched that. Is Logan better than The Dark Knight? I'm going to go with... I rewatched The Dark Knight a lot more than I'm probably going to ever watch Logan. Some of that's a bias towards Batman. I'm a big Batman fan. And so that's one reason for that. I think it's just a more watchable type of film because it deals with consequences and escalation, but it doesn't deal explicitly with death the way that Logan does. So I think I would go with The Dark Knight, but they're good in very different ways, and they're both very mature in different types of ways. All right, my wife just came in here. She will be jumping into the chat board and all that fun stuff to try and come up with some questions that you guys have asked. We also have the baby in here, but I can't really show you that, unfortunately, because hey, toss the baby! And then you guys would report me to the police.
As well they should.
Yes, that was my wife. This is Jennifer right over there. She had a humanectomy like a month ago, which is very exciting. Now there's a new Chandler in the world. Travis Sherrill says, is there a role in a movie you've seen that you really wish had gone to a different actor that you have in mind? Do I? What's a movie that was just, we watched it and we're like, this was bad casting?
You have to give me a minute to think.
Yeah, I don't have one that's immediately coming to mind, but of course there's movies out there that are just poorly cast. I have a hard time sometimes with these because a lot of times, if the casting's so far off, something else is wrong in the mix. So you go back to like Batman and Robin. You know, you wish someone other than George Clooney played Batman, but the problem wasn't George Clooney. The problem was everything else. And you could imagine a movie where he would be a good fit for it. Careful.
I'm sorry.
You can imagine where it would make sense. What they gave us. It makes absolutely no sense. So unfortunately, I don't have one that comes. I wish I did, because that's a great question. I can't pull one up right now off the top of my head. To give some simple ones where I tend to notice things, like with Venom. I was talking about, not Venom, but with Spider-Man 3 casting Topher Grace's Venom. When Eddie Brock in the comics is a weightlifter and a big guy, it felt like they cast Topher Grace because he was coming off of that 70s show. He was one of these actors that would kind of bring in a different demographic, but he doesn't fit the role. And so I think of things like that a lot, where they just kind of do this stunt casting and they put someone in there that just seems like, why are you doing this? But I can't come up with anything particularly good at this particular moment. Here's a good one. No Perez says, would like to hear your opinion on James Gunn being considered for Suicide Squad 2. It's pretty interesting. Hope the new baby's doing well. New baby appears to be doing well. She's healthy. I mean, our doctor even let us skip a doctor's appointment. At that level, he's like, there's nothing to check. Your baby's healthy. So things have been... Hulk baby, yeah. So everything's been going great with the baby. As for my take on James Gunn and Suicide Squad, for me, what I tweeted out was win, win, win. I literally retweeted the article and just wrote win, win, win. From my perspective, it's work for James Gunn. That's for a big studio. That's pretty quickly just kind of a redemption arc for him. That kind of moved past all that, the weirdness of what went down. So that's a win for him. That's work, obviously. It's a win for the WB because he's a talent. And you're bringing someone in that can get people excited. You can get some positive spin from that. There's a side to it that there's just the rivalry stuff. I'm going through this book right now called Slugfest, that it's all about the slugfest between Marvel and DC Comics, going all the way back to the start of DC Comics to the rise of Marvel. And one of the funny things that continues on through the story of DC and Marvel is that they would steal writers and artists from each other. And that was like this big ongoing theme. And so right as I'm going through this book, then this James Gunn news happens. And it's like a continuation of this almost 60-year-old feud of them stealing talent from each other. So it's a win for DC because they got a talented guy that probably by now has enough clout that he won't get pushed around too much. And then get them nerd cred. And then it's a win for us as the audience because I think it's a good fit. It makes sense. DC and Suicide Squad, it's pretty dark stuff. And so that fits, I think, his wheelhouse a little bit better. He's a dark guy. I mean, obviously, the fact that he was fired from Disney for all these really dark, twisted joke things that he tweeted out 10 years ago, that's kind of him. And that fits the Suicide Squad really well. It's dark stuff. He did that movie, what was the Belko experiment last year? That it's about people in a building killing each other. He wrote the script for that. That's his stuff. So Suicide Squad seems like a good fit. It's also a ragtag ensemble film, which is what Guardians was. Like bringing over a guy that's done ensembles, that does dark stuff. It feels a win-win-win for me. It all feels good to me. So that's my kind of quick take on it. All right, so wife has now had time to read through what you guys are saying. What do you got?
What Avenger would you choose to be your best friend?
Avenger would I choose to be my best friend? If you're just talking like want to have fun, hang out with somebody, Tony Stark just seems like that's where the party's at. Obviously, he's got the sarcasm and, quip. So he's going to be funny. And then he's got the money. And he's got the resources to just do fun things with him. So to have a guy that's just, when you hang out with him, something fun's going to happen and you're going to do something, it just feels like Iron Man. And then his best friend became a superhero and got his own super suit and everything. So that is a really nice little deal right there.
Favorite Tom Cruise movie?
Favorite Tom Cruise movie? I think I go with A Few Good Men. There's so many that are great. And I feel like that's in a way a bit of a cheat because I'm kind of leaving out the Mission Impossible movies because those are Mission Impossible movies to me. And I don't even know which one I would pick as the best vehicle for Tom Cruise. But A Few Good Men just showcases a different side to him. It's not just, look, he can jump off buildings, but has to act in the movie. There's some deep, rich themes, Aaron Sorkin's script, just a lot of stuff that really hits right for me.
Someone, back to the bad casting question, said they thought Tobey Maguire was bad casting for Spider-Man because it was hard not to think of him as a 30-year-old man instead of a teenager.
It's true. Tobey Maguire is unfortunately a human being that perpetually looks young and old at the same time. The wrong mix, unfortunately. At least for doing movies and things like that. It's just like he's a distinct look.
Someone asked, I can't find it at this moment, but about Dave Bautista. And I thought you'd want to say that he tweeted.
I don't know what was the question about Dave Bautista.
I've got to find it. Go ahead and tell them.
So Dave Bautista, actually, so he put out a new movie about a month ago. It's, kind of a Die Hard type movie, confined environment, one man trying to stop terrorists, called I'm blanking on it because you just mentioned it out of the blue.
Sorry.
But when I went to start watching it, it's got Pierce Brosnan in there and it's got Ray Stevenson who played the Punisher. So I did this tweet and I tagged him in it about, hey, cool action movie. You can't really go wrong when you got a Drax, a Bond, and a Punisher in it, and you keep hitting this light. And so I said this, and he retweeted it. So that's a lot of fun to have Dave Bautista retweet something. So the question was probably about, he tweeted out that he wants to be in James Gunn's Suicide Squad 2. He's like, sign me up, I want to be in it. What do I think about that? I'm for it. That's a win. I don't think he could be in both universes, so I don't know how that would play out. So it gets a little bit tricky when you got kind of these competing systems going, but... I'm for it. I just would have to know how all the pieces are going to come out together on that one. What do you got?
Do you think She-Venom is hot?
No, that was very creepy to me. Was not my favorite part, no.
What was that?
I can't spoil things, so I don't want to say too much more about that.
Okay. Are you still using your Movie Pass subscription?
No would be the short answer. Yeah, so I get to go to a lot of press screenings. I get invited. A lot of the movies right now, most of the new releases I do, it's based off of getting to go to the press screenings for it. So I don't need Movie Pass for that. And then because Movie Pass is switched to not all movies are available, not all showings are available, when I go to the movies with Movie Pass, the showing that I want to go see isn't available. And so the last time I used Movie Pass, I was going to see Slender Man a month after it had come out, and it wasn't there. And I was like, are you kidding me? So I just picked another movie, which I guess is, you're not supposed to do that, but I wasn't using the service otherwise. So I actually canceled because I wasn't using it at all. And I was just so frustrated that it's not a good service anymore. It's a bad product. It used, when it was $45, I thought it was a great product for the right people. Now it's $10 a month and a bad product. So I canceled it. And then they sent out this email that they're going to re-sign you up if you didn't re-cancel. And I forgot to re-cancel on that one. So I think I'm signed back up. So, whoops. Someone says, Gamer Girl says, who's your favorite teacher in school? Mr. Weiner, my physics teacher, my sophomore year in high school. He's kind of the person that first kind of made me think I was smart, because I'm kind of dumb in other ways. And I just had a creative way of thinking and could understand things. It was a weird class. There were mistakes. There's some in the curriculum and the way that... Basically, there were some prerequisites we were supposed to take before taking the class, and he didn't know that, and we didn't know that, and so it was all messed up. And so it was a weird semester, but once things got going, just kind of this teacher that kind of pulled the potential out of me. And that's what a great teacher does. It helps you to see a better version of yourself and become that better person. So, we got a super chat from John Sturcio. Thank you so much. I'm sorry if I botched your name, but thank you so much for the super chat. Thoughts on Iron Fist canceled? It's interesting. It's very interesting because Netflix doesn't cancel a lot of things. And then with, the Marvel Netflix stuff, that's kind of where they get a lot of their buzz, is that Marvel Netflix stuff. That's what a lot of people talk about. But season 1 of Iron Fist, widely considered the worst of the Marvel Netflix seasons. Very poorly received. The second season was much better received. I haven't finished it. I need to finish it because Daredevil's next weekend. I'm going to binge watch all of that and put out my next ranking. But much better received. From the half of the season I've seen, it's a lot better. A lot more clarified. Its focus a lot more. But I think by now, a lot of people have just been burned out by Marvel Netflix, and they're like, I didn't like Defenders as much as I should have. I didn't like Jessica Jones Season 2. I didn't like Luke Cage Season 2. And a lot of people are feeling like not as much strong stuff. And then I'm guessing a ton of people just skipped Iron Fist. They didn't even get to Season 2. They just didn't even give it a try. And so the numbers for it are probably really low if they canceled it. So what do I think about it? I can't say I miss it too much because it's not a show that I'm... If it means we're going to get more seasons of better Marvel Netflix, I'm okay with the loss. The showrunner for at least the first season is pretty terrible. So I'm not a fan of that guy. So anyway, that's kind of my quick take on it, is that I'm not too broken up about it. I understand where they're coming from and why it would happen.
I saw your video about your sermon. I'd like to see more about that if possible. Also, is Andy going to start a channel? I would love that.
So there's two things in there. The first one was on my second channel. If you look in the description of my videos, maybe I don't. If you go to my page, there's a place where you can click on a link that will take you to my second channel, where I post more vlogs, kind of get to know you type stuff, stay in the life. And then likewise, I'll share some of the old music I did. And then last week I spoke at this youth retreat. And so I shared kind of the introduction part to it. And so I shared that. That's what he's referring to, and tried to, show people another side of me and what I'm like on stage telling stories. And there's aspects of me like this that are very much me speaking live on stage, and then there's things that are just totally different. That are just, I tell a lot more stories, a lot funnier, and I'm better at a lot of those things. So the second part, Andy, got my friend that I've had on several of my videos in the last month or so. He asked, is Andy going to start another channel? We're talking about it. We're trying to figure out what that would look like. I know how to edit video. Obviously, before I started this channel, I had a lot of history of editing video, live speaking, and things like that. Andy, I don't know if he's edited video. I don't know. And so there's a couple of things that make it difficult to start off. And I don't want to set him up for failure where he's too linked to me and doesn't have the infrastructure in place to be able to kind of have the certain qualities to it, it sets him up for failure. I don't want to do that, so we're trying to figure out what that looks like to help him launch and be successful, because a lot of people ask if he's going to have his own channel, and so hopefully, yes. Basically he wants to start a channel that's largely about comics, and so his would be more comic focused, but we've actively spoken about it. He's talked to some other people. He's tried to recruit a guy to do editing and things like that, so it's definitely being discussed.
Would you want to own a symbiote if you could?
No, because you're not in control of it. It's like it's symbiotic relationship, hence the word. And so you lose control. You gain power, but lose control at the same time. So I'm not crazy about the idea of not being in full control. So I'm going to go with no.
Would you like to have a pet Groot?
A pet Groot? I'd be down for a pet Groot. He's very loyal, and very useful as he gets taller. And you can use him for kindling. He can reach tall things. He's very strong. I'm sure he could help. If you have a 2-story house, he could lift furniture up and things like that. There's a lot of things he'd be very useful at. So I'd be totally down for a pet Groot.
Not that anyone asked me, but I would prefer to have him in the pot. The little tiny baby Groot stays still. I don't like teenager Groot.
Yeah, but that's only when he's growing up.
Well. Instead of Kurt Russell playing Ego, who would you rather have seen him play?
Who would I rather see Kurt Russell play than Ego? I mean, I don't have anybody in mind, especially off the top of my head. And it's not like I thought that he did a bad job there. I just didn't particularly like the story arc was so heavy in a way that you didn't really get to even soak in how dark that storyline was going. It's like, oh, here's the thousands of Star-Lord's siblings that are dead, and then you just kind of move immediately on to the next thing. And so it wasn't like I had this other thing in mind for him, but I mean, you could have him as another Ravager, and so Ravager with Stallone, and you do a Tango and Cash reunion with the two of them being Ravagers that are buddies with like Rooker or Yondu. So there's a bunch of different things, but I don't have something specific in mind.
Do you like, hold on, where'd it go? Friday the 13th or Nightmare on Elm Street better?
I've spent a lot more time watching Friday the 13th movies than Nightmare on Elm Street movies. A Nightmare on Elm Street, the original film, is easily better than any of the Friday the 13th films, in my opinion. But just the way the universe has worked out, I've spent a lot more time watching Friday the 13th movies. There's no particular reason for that, as I just told you that I think that Nightmare on Elm Street is a better movie. Just the simplicity probably makes it a little bit easier for me to just kind of watch guy walking around hacking people up. Simplicity. Whereas, there's a little bit more complexity to dream worlds, and there's more plot involved with Nightmare on Elm Street. But, yeah, there you go.
Did you hear that Christian Bale put on 304 pounds for an upcoming role?
No, he didn't. No, he did not do that. That would mean that he weighed 500 pounds if he put on 304 pounds. He might have gained weight, but I can't even imagine he would get up to 304 pounds. That's an enormous amount of weight, because he normally sits... Size. Yeah, for his size, he normally sits around like in the 180s, I think, at about 6 feet tall. That means he put on 130 pounds of fat in a very which he put on 100 pounds to get to Batman Begins because he lost a ton of weight. But I do not believe for any second that he actually got up to 305 pounds. I'm pretty sure would be a world record for most weight gained to play a role. So I don't fully know what to do with that because there's I'd have to see a link to figure what the whole story was, but he's always done massive body transformation for roles. He does that a lot.
Did you see Christopher Robin?
No, I haven't seen Christopher Robin.
Okay, so you can't answer if you liked it or not.
I cannot.
Sorry, there's another question about Christopher Robin. Favorite movie this year up to this point?
I've done multiple videos about that. I mean, it's Infinity War. I've done multiple videos on that, but yeah. And then for a drama, A Star Is Born. For a thriller, A Quiet Place. Those are kind of the top ones for me. Best surprise was Upgrade.
I apologize if you already addressed this, but are you reviewing the Halloween movies?
I'm not reviewing them. I'm going to rank them. I'm actively watching, like right now on that TV is paused Halloween 2 because I'm rewatching them right now to rank them after the new one comes out. So I don't even know if I'll review the new one. I'm going to see it Thursday night, and then my ranking will drop on Saturday. I don't know if I'll be able to do a review for it or not.
What did you think of the Aladdin trailer?
Haven't seen it.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, you were like literally as much as you were literally there the only time I looked at it, where I was like, "Hey, look!"
Is that it?
I mean, it's only a minute and 30 seconds, but I held up my laptop and was like, hey, look at this. And you're like, what is that? I was like, it's Aladdin. It's the same thing. So I haven't watched it in its entirety. I just kind of like skimmed through it and was like trying to like get her to be interested. She wasn't interested. I wasn't interested because it just didn't. From what what I saw there, I didn't think it was going to show anything. It was going to be a tease, and that's all it did was tease. It was like, hey, look, this thing's coming. Cool.
Have you met a director, a big director?
If I met a big director. So, this isn't a big director, but a movie called Kin came out a month ago, 2 months ago, and the directors were at the screening I went to for it. So I met them at that, shook their hand, took a picture with them. They were excited because they're tall, and I was the same height as them, and everyone else wasn't as tall as them. Like, hey, you're as tall as us. So I met them and got their autographs and everything like that. I don't think I met any other directors. I was invited just yesterday. Jason Reitman is debuting one of his movies at Austin Film Festival at the end of this month. And on the press list I'm on, he's doing press stuff with them. So I was invited to interview him. I don't know if I'm going to do it because I'm very shy and I don't know what I would do. It feels very out of my comfort zone. But literally, I've been invited. Funny you should ask this question because I've been like actively have an invite right now to potentially meet Jason Reitman and interview him.
Have you met an actor?
Have I met an actor? Yeah.
You went to high school with that one guy. Did you meet him or did you just go to the same
Wait,
school?
Met an actor? I didn't go to high school with an actor.
Yes, you did.
Who?
I just don't know if you went at the same time. That's what I'm saying.
No, that's Angry Joe.
What?
Angry Joe. If you guys know I'm sure a lot of you know who Angry Joe is. He went to the same high school as me. I didn't know that until about a month ago. Just happened to look it up. I knew he's from around here, but I went to the same high school with him at the same time. But he didn't. I didn't know him. We just went. I'm a couple years older than him, and we were there at school at the same time. Famous actors? I don't think so. I mean, I met John Wesley Shipp, the Flash, from the '90s show, and then kind of the Flash on the new one too, one of the other Earth's Flashes. So I met him at a Comic-Con a couple months ago, and there's a few things like that, but I haven't met anything super interesting.
I think John Wesley Shipp is pretty interesting, especially that he like tweets you back.
Yeah, I've exchanged a bunch of tweets with John Wesley Shipp, and like I've said this. I told him in person a story, and then I like tweeted it to him a couple months later. He's like, dude, you told me this in person. I'm like, oh, John Wesley Shipp knows who I am and remembers me. That's cool. But I mean, we interacted a couple different times. It's pretty cool.
You're going to be doing a Parks and Rec ranking video, right?
Yeah, I have plans to do a Parks and Rec season ranking. We already watched through all the seasons. We finished that up a couple weeks ago. And then also coming up in 2 weeks. 2 weeks from now, I'll be having a second Office ranking. Either top episodes or characters ranked. That's coming up in 2 weeks. So I've got a couple of different TV show of those comedy shows rankings coming up. So yeah.
Have you gone to Disney World in Florida?
Yeah, I went to Disney World in Florida back the summer right around when The Rocketeer came out. So we're talking 25 years ago. I went with my family. We used to do these summer trips, like road trips, where we go on the road for like 6 weeks and just kind of drive all around. And so we did that, drove to a whole bunch of different states, and then we went to Universal Studios as well as Disney World for several different days. I got my picture taken with the Rocketeer, not the actual Rocketeer, but the Rocketeer. I mean, there was a strap to him, and he flew up in there and everything. So that was pretty cool. So yeah, I have been there. Not Dominic with a super chat. Thank you so much for that. Says, hey, dude, I love your channel. Keep it up. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Yeah. Nothing asks, do you watch Jay Vader's? Yes, I watch some of Jay Vader's stuff. I know him. We've interacted a good bit. Watched a number of his videos. I don't think we've ever done a collaboration before. We've talked about it. It just didn't actually happen. We might have been on one of these kind of local YouTube competition shows together. I don't remember, but he's one of these people because I've watched so many of his videos and interacted with him on Facebook or on Twitter and things like that that I don't actually know if I've spoken to him before. I get really confused as to which people I've video chatted before with. It's kind of funny because I have all these YouTube friends now. It's kind of weird. It's interesting dynamic.
Predator 1980 versus 2018.
Predator 1980?
That's what I believe it says.
There's no Predator 1980. There's Predator
1980s.
Predator is way up here. The Predator from 2018 is like It's not boring, but it's not a good movie. But Predator's way up here. It's an excellent film. It's one of the best of the sci-fi action thriller genre. It's one of the best of the genre. I've done, I reviewed it, did rankings, and I sing its praise all the time. John McTiernan in that little window with Predator, Die Hard, Hunt for Red October. That's an incredible run for a director that it's a shame that he kind of dwindled eventually. But yeah, Predator's phenomenal. The Predator, a very interesting mess. Very interesting. I've done some videos on that. My spoiler review would kind of dive into some stuff about that. I did that with Cody Leach. And so, yeah.
Have you seen Old Boy?
No, I haven't seen either one of the Old Boys. I know what you're talking about. I haven't seen either one.
Do you think Henry Cavill ruined Justice League?
Henry Cavill ruined Justice League? No, absolutely. It's not like there's nothing that Henry Cavill did that ruined it. There's, I mean, it fixed the mustache issue, and the movie still has enormous issues. Henry Cavill is not one of them. The writing of Superman, was not crazy about the way they did some things, but if I were to make a list of problems with Justice League, Henry Cavill would not be on my list of problems. Perhaps Superman would be, but not, Mustache Gate wouldn't be in the top 5. I think that movie is kind of doomed from the beginning. I think that the studios, even if Zack Snyder had been able to do whatever he wanted to do, it was just always doomed because the studio did not want to go full Zack Snyder from the get-go. So even what Zack Snyder was working on, I think, was watered down. And then putting Joss Whedon in there wasn't an obvious fit at all. It's kind of a weird move, and watching it, you can tell when there's little Joss Whedon jokes in there, and some of them are seriously undermine the film. And to loop back to John Wesley Shipp, so he was the Flash in the 1990 TV show. He's Barry Allen's dad on the current show, and he's Jay Garrick and a number of different things. So he's super associated with the Flash. I saw him at a Comic-Con back in June, and someone asked him, "Hey, what did you think about the Justice League and the Flash?" And he sang the praise of the actor. He is great. And he went, "I really didn't like what they did with the Flash, though. The Flash was designed as a punchline in the movie. Every time the Flash is in a scene, it's to make a joke about he doesn't fight people, he just pushes people. I'm not a hero." And then even when you get to the moment at the end of the film where he's given his opportunity to be the hero and save some people, as soon as he's saving someone, it's like, yeah, he's doing it. Then they cut over to a very Joss Whedon type joke. And while Flash is like, "I'm proud of myself, look what I'm doing." And we pan over and Superman's flying with a whole building on top of his head. And so it's a cheap little cute joke in a very Joss Whedon sort of way that just makes the point the Flash is useless. What's the, cool, you saved one person, look at Superman say. And so that movie has so many problems that I don't go back to Henry Cavill on any of it.
Have you seen Bad Times at the El Royale?
Not yet. It's just been it's been on my list. I'm very interested in seeing it, but came out last week. It debuted at a film festival that was a month ago that I wanted to go to, but the film festival was the week my baby was born. So I couldn't go because I had a newborn baby. I just taken off work so we could resettle. So I didn't see it at that. And then the second weekend, the weekend it came out, I was speaking out of town, so I couldn't go see it. And then this week, I was going to go see First Man. I was going to see Royale. And then her brother had a baby. And so,
well, my brother's wife.
Well, yeah, that's an important detail. And so it's just there keeps being these things that keep happening. So I'm behind on stuff. So I haven't seen First Man, and I was going to do Damien Chazelle's movies today. I was going to rank those, and I haven't seen First Man yet, just because of the way the universe has played out. So.
I think there's a super chat.
All right, we got a super chat. Mohan Singhal. I'm very sorry if I messed up your name. I was wrong. Christian Bale gained 50 pounds to play Dick Cheney. Many articles, 3 stone, and thought it was 100 pounds. Okay, there we go. So this is going back to before where we were talking about Christian Bale gaining a bunch of weight, and the number that was said before was a little bit too high. So he's correcting it. He gained 50 pounds for Dick Cheney. I absolutely believe that, and you watch that trailer and.
I didn't even know.
Yeah, I played it for her intentionally. I bet she's not gonna. And I probably did this thing. I do this a lot where I'm like,
did.
hey, close your eyes, close your eyes, close your eyes. And she's like, what are you doing? Like, close your eyes. So I played the trailer. She's like, oh, this looks interesting. And then there's Christian Bale, and it cuts him. It's like, whoa. That's why he's kind of one of the greats. He is all in on roles. And I'm sure most of you probably know this, but before he was cast as Batman, actually when he was cast as Batman, he was doing this movie called The Machinist, where he had gotten to a point in time where he was eating like one apple and one can of tuna to just drop weight. So he's like 6'1", he's my height, and he dropped down to about 120 pounds. And so that's at that height with that much bone, I mean, that is, you just look like you're about to die. And so it just, if you can look these pictures up, just look horrendous.
So
and then they called him in to do his casting, and his weight was still crazy low. And they're like, what are you kidding me? This guy, an 8-year-old could kill this guy. He's so skinny, he can't be Batman. They're like, no. He got cast in the role. And so then he had to go from like 120 to about 215 in a very short period of time. And did it. You watch those early training sequences, and he just looks like a brawler, like this thick guy that can rip off your arms and beat you up. And so the idea that he would put on 50 pounds for Dick Cheney, that's the stuff. American Hustle, he also put on a bunch of fat for that one too, and did all sorts of. He disappears, and his body transformation, makeup, but you don't see Christian Bale in a lot of these movies, and that's one of the things that I think just really makes him kind of special. One of these guys that people are going to remember. He's going to have a strong legacy, not just as a movie star, but as an actor, because that's the stuff that he does. So I normally wouldn't be interested in a Dick Cheney movie until you see that trailer and you're like, oh, this looks interesting. And then, of course, because of Christian Bale and his dedication. Thank you so much for clarifying that one on that. It's like, something's not quite right with this, but I know there's some truth to it at the same time.
What do you think about Glass?
Unbreakable is my favorite M. Night movie. I love that movie. And I love Signs, Sixth Sense, and Unbreakable. I think they're all phenomenal. So I've always been interested in seeing something like that. And I got to see Split a week before it came out. And so there wasn't even some of the buzz. And it was just went to go see the movie. I was like, oh, this is a pretty cool little M. Night movie. And then the end happened. And I was like, whoa! Just one of the coolest moments I've ever had in a theater of just like a twist on a movie that almost overshadows the whole film. Like, wow, I can't believe the studio let you do this. So now we're getting close. It's about to happen. So I'm, of course, very excited. I haven't seen the new trailer yet. I normally don't watch trailers unless I do a reaction until I see them in the theater, because I'd rather see it for the first time in the theater if I'm not going to be able to do a video out of it. The way the work weeked out with new baby and sort of thing, I wasn't able to see it. So I'm very excited, though, just on principle. The idea that maybe we're going to get like Bruce Willis again, or excuse me, acting. Bruce Willis the actor, not Bruce Willis the cranky old man that wants a paycheck. That's pretty exciting to me. And then just the simple idea that this is actually happening, finally. So I'll see what David Dunn is up to.
Sorry. I was thinking about cranky old Bruce Willis.
All right, I'm going to try and crank a few of these out real quick so I can try and get through more people's questions. So if you can just throw some at me.
Does your wife force you to watch movies together?
Force me to watch movies together?
What it says.
That's not really the way it plays out. It'd be much more the opposite direction. They talk about love languages, and some people are acts of service, some people are kind words. Mine's quality time, just being around people. It doesn't have to be doing anything, just being in the same room. And because of what I do, I just watch movies to do ranking videos, because if I haven't seen movies in a while, like I said, I was looking to do the Damien Chazelle movies. I saw La La Land. I reviewed it 2 years ago, but it's been 2 years, and so I needed to rewatch it, and rewatched Whiplash. So I watched these movies, and so it's much more me making her watch stuff. And I don't even know what what could you make me watch? Like, what would be the context of that? The Greatest Showman. But you're not forcing me. You're just watching it. So she watches The Greatest Showman a couple times every day. And
that's not really true.
So
I watch it a lot.
She watched
that often.
And so I'll come home and she's watching it. But she's not forcing me to watch it. I can go upstairs and do something different. So There's a kind of a little take on it. Someone says, what do you think about the Child's Play remake? Or Jay Sony says, what do you think about the Child's Play remake? I don't have thoughts yet. I need to see a trailer. I'm excited because Audrey Plaza's in it, so that's interesting to me. I'm not offended that they're doing a new Child's Play movie. Some people are like, they're was it Mancino? I don't remember the guy that wrote it and directed a bunch of the later ones. So he's not involved in this, but he's working on his own kind of things off to the side. So some people are really offended. I'm not. The original came out 30 years ago. He's had a great run. So the idea that they're updating it for a new generation with new continuity, it seems fair game to me. 30 years later, that's fair enough. That seems like a reasonable thing to do. So I want to see a trailer. I want to know more details, but on principle, I'm open to it.
How long have you been married?
12 years in December. I started laughing because so someone asked if I watch Game of Thrones. If you read the description, that question is answered in there. So yeah, we got married in December 23rd of 2006. So 12 years in December.
Can you wait for Crimes of Grindelwald?
Can I wait? Absolutely, I can wait. Yeah, because I'm not the biggest Harry Potter fan, and I wasn't the biggest fan of Fantastic Beasts, so I'm very easy for me to wait on that one. But I'm trying to build up anticipation by reviewing all the movies and everything like that. I'm always open to having my mind changed and want to go in all primed up on Harry Potter world, so I'm watching all of them in preparation and anticipation. So, but actually, separate from having a YouTube channel, probably wouldn't see it in the theater.
I mean, I'm a fan, and I'm not even sure.
Yeah, she's loves all the books, constantly re-listening to the audiobooks in her car, like on loop. Her go-to movies at nighttime, if she wants to just put something on, it's either Harry Potter or The Office. So that's her. And so now The Greatest Showman. That's a new one in the mix. That's her world. Tons of Harry Potter, and she's not like pumped for it. The Fantastic Beasts, it's like, hey, it's cool to go to this world, but I don't think they didn't capture the magic of the characters of Hogwarts and the Harry Potter world with Fantastic Beasts. They haven't nailed that yet, so hopefully the second one will win me over. And I thought the tone was way off on the first one. That was my biggest issue, is that it was too kind of cutesy Harry Potter continuation, and then like abused children going crazy. Like that's a big leap right there that I didn't think it nailed right.
Man, some people are getting a little aggressive. Have you seen Storks?
No, I haven't seen Storks.
I did. And I totally cried like a weirdo.
All right, she has seen it and she cried. I haven't seen it at all.
What do you think about Dark Knight's Scarecrow?
I think he was used very wisely. I think that for what Nolanverse was doing, which is trying to find a more grounded version of these characters, that was a very good use of the character and a good way to work a bunch of characters into it without it needing to everyone be like, what? So it's a common issue with a lot of comic book movies that they put too many villains in, and it just feels overcrowded and unnatural. What they did with Scarecrow is they made a very natural way for him to be able to be in 3 movies and have it make sense. So I was a big fan of what they did.
What's your favorite gangster movie?
Excuse me. Untouchables. That would sound right. Untouchables, the Kevin Costner one. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
David Mamet. I'm a big fan of that one. That's a kind of old-fashioned. Well, I mean, obviously set bootleg era, Prohibition, but just even the way it's told and everything, the musical score, everything about it just has. I really enjoy what they did with that film. And then Sean Connery, nice mentor type role.
Should they remake Back to the Future but go back to the 90s?
Yes. I've said this many times on my channel. People ask me I get asked about this one a lot. That's what I think. That's what when you talk about remakes. What I want to be clear. What I think is interesting about Back to the Future is it's a 1985-year-old teenager going back to see his parents in the 1950s, in 1955. That is a transferable idea that is interesting again every 20 years because society is changing so fast. Technology changes so fast that right now you take you take in the year 2020, 18-year-old kid that's grown up in the age of political correctness, the internet, smartphone in your pocket, tolerance, like all of the things that are like modern day society. Donald Trump is the president, and you send him back to 1990 when his parents were in high school. That's interesting. Like that, it's a transferable concept. Now, I totally it's not. It doesn't necessarily have to be like Marty McFly is just like Michael J. Fox, and like you don't try and mimic the characters. You take that central concept, and you get Lord and Miller. You get some of these really up-and-coming guys that just have an energy, that are funny, that are creative. You take this transferable concept. Like, I get excited talking about it because it's so interesting. Again, the same way it was interesting in 1985, it's interesting again now. You just get a really sharp talent and let them run with it. Don't over studio head, note the thing to death. Let it go. I mean, you have to remember, a central like plot line inside of the original film involved incest, where his mom was into him. Like, let it have the edginess and weirdness. Absolutely, I'm for it.
What do you think about Jake Gyllenhaal playing Mysterio and Spider-Man?
I have a video about that on my channel. Whenever they first announced it, I put a video up. I'm down for it. I'm not a Mysterio expert. He's not one of the Spider-Man villains that I have a bunch of read the comics or anything like that about that particular character. So, is Jake Gyllenhaal talented? Yeah, this guy is extraordinarily talented. You're talking about, you watch him in Nightcrawler. He doesn't have all the makeup. He doesn't have, they're not doing all the stuff they did with Christian Bale for Dick Cheney, American Hustle. And you see him, he's slimmed down a bit, and he just disappears. I mean, just creepy guy in Nightcrawler. That's how talented he is. It's not like Jake Gyllenhaal is my favorite actor or anything like that, or I watch anything he's in. But he's really good. Chris Pratt.
Chris Pratt's your favorite?
No, I just say things sometimes. As a person that just feels like a normal guy, not necessarily as the actor or anything like that, but as a actual human, seems like a normal guy.
Justice League or Batman vs. Superman?
Batman vs. Superman. Justice League, to me, feels like the product of a studio. Directed by committee, written by committee, everything just trying to like not offend people and overcorrect things. Batman v Superman is a flawed film where they made mistakes, they overshot. You could rightly say elements of it are pretentious, but they were trying to do something. And they let a guy try and do something. And then there's elements in the dialogue, especially with the Alfred Bruce Wayne stuff, that I think has, you can tell Ben Affleck, Oscar-winning screenwriter Ben Affleck was in there writing notes on how to like punch it up a little bit. You can see that in elements of it. With Justice League, I watch it and I just see a movie made by committee, and I see an entirely compromised vision. There is no vision. It's just everyone's vision. Batman v Superman, they tried to do something. They didn't fully accomplish it, but I can respect that a lot more than Justice League. And we rewatched Justice League a month or two ago and tried to like it a little bit more, but I felt the same way watching it a second time. Every time I watch Batman v Superman, I like it a little bit more. And if you hate it, I'm not going to try and convince you. I get it. I see the problems. But the things that I respect about it, I respect them a little bit more each viewing.
Do you have any tattoos?
I don't. I would. Well, in my mind, it kind of goes back to the favorites thing of it. To pick a favorite, it's to definitively say this is the thing on top. With a tattoo, it's like to definitively say I want this on my bicep for the next. I'm in 36, almost 37. I want this on my arm for the next 20 years I'm alive. I was trying to freak her out because she'd get mad at me if I say something like that. It didn't work. I was hoping she'd freak out a little bit. I got a little look. I didn't get a good enough look. But to say that I want a tattoo on my arm for the next 50 years, and I watch some of these people that have the sleeves. I think Prescott. It's just so it's just so young and so many tattoos, and I go, I can't think that way. Like I can't do that. Actually, almost all of our former students, they're all tatted up. I just can't get there. I just think, but I don't think I'll want this on my arm in a little bit. I think through all my hairstyles and everything I've had, and I go, that looked good at the time, and 2 years later, I'm like, what was I thinking? I look ridiculous. So I don't know. We talk a lot about getting ring tattoos, and we should have gotten them before because I don't wear my wedding ring because of my job and my finger could get ripped off, and so it would have made sense if we'd had tatted up ring tattoo. But then
I'm not pregnant. I think I can do that now.
Yeah, she keeps every time we're like, let's go do it. She's like, I'm pregnant, and then you're not supposed to do that stuff. So
like it's all on purpose. Did you hear that Mark Ruffalo got fired?
I've heard that. Doesn't sound real. I mean, what does it even mean? They've filmed the movie already. They've already filmed it. So I don't even know what the rumor means. Like, you got fired. Really? Really? You're going to cut him out of the movie? You fired him from a movie you've already shot? Really? So I don't know what that means or anything like that. But it's like more this rumor thing off to the side as opposed to like actual news. So doesn't seem legit to me.
Will you watch season 3 of Stranger Things?
Yeah.
Do you like Steve Harrington?
Yeah, Steve's a cool guy. He redeemed himself. He was kind of a jerk and then became less of a jerk and became the babysitter.
I liked all those. Are there a bunch of memes or something?
Oh yeah, T-shirts and everything.
Netflix came out
yeah, right at the same time that movie, The Babysitter, came out and had a real distinctive cover art to it than they did once with Steve and everything. So that's pretty fun.
Favorite movie based on a true story?
Based on The Untouchables, of course. I don't know. I don't have to think about it. Favorites are tough because I'm just kind of pulling something and like, well, what? There's so many movies out there that I'd have to process, so I don't have one that comes to mind immediately.
Jurassic Park trilogy or Mission Impossible original trilogy?
Mission Impossible. Because I only like Jurassic... of those movies, I only really like Jurassic Park. So it's like one movie that's better than the other three movies.
Offended.
One movie is better than any of the other three movies. And then it's two great movies. So, as franchise things, I would go with the one that has more things that I like.
What do you think about a Tobey Maguire cameo in Spider-Man Far From Home as the pizza guy?
It'd be funny. He's a pretty cranky guy from the interviews and stuff I've seen, so I don't imagine we'd see him do that because he just seems pretty. He doesn't have a sense of humor about some of this stuff. Observer Dude left a super chat. Thank you so much for that. We greatly appreciate it. What do you think of the original story for Return of the Jedi about Leia becoming queen of what was left of her people? The late Gary Kurtz wrote it. Yeah, so I've read a number of things that you're talking about. So if you guys don't know, there's a guy named Gary Kurtz. I think he died in the last 2 weeks. He was the producer on Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back. And then after Empire Strikes Back, he left. He was out. And he always kind of was one kind of reining things in a little bit and kind of one of these people that could kind of box George in so he didn't kind of go all out on some crazy stuff. And according to him, he came out with several interviews over the years where he said, yeah, our original idea for part 3 was much darker, and Luke was kind of wander off, kind of disenfranchised. Han was going to die. Leia was going to become queen. And then he says that, but then George Lucas realized the potential of merchandising, and he started to see how much money he could make with toys. So then suddenly we go back and we repeat the first movie with the Death Star. We put cute little teddy bears in the movie that you can sell. And you have all these different sets that can be sold to kids. And suddenly all this very much darker story that doesn't lend itself to making toys goes away. And we get Return of the Jedi that we got. What do I think about that? There's some questions as to how true it is. Because not everyone has fully agreed on that. I don't know. So, real quick, right down here, as I'm filming, or if you look over here, I've got the making of Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back. Let me see if I can, and Return of the Jedi. In this book right here, they have interviews. They talk through all this stuff. They show the notes. They have diagrams, history of things, and different things that George Lucas was doing. So I've read that book. And there's definitely some truth-ish to what Gary Kurtz is saying, and there's things about it that don't fully have the historicity that you could confirm it's all true. Would I prefer they did go in that direction? I don't think so. I mean, I think they could have done more with Leia if you're going to make the big reveal if she's some of these different things. There's more things they could have done. Maybe she should have become queen, but in general, I like Return of the Jedi. I like the arc that they did. There's some story issues because the act number 1 on Tatooine feels much more like the prologue to the film, which it is. It's essentially the prologue to this other plot line because we got to get Han back, so it's the bridge between the two films. So that's a weird way to do a first act to a movie. So, but in general, I'd have to see a story. I'd have to actually know what they're planning to do, not just kind of like, and then she ends up here and he ends up over here, and then they were going to... I need to know more than that.
What's your favorite type of soda?
Tough to say. I switch around. So there's Dr. Pepper for a long time. I've been a cola person the last couple of months. So I got, I don't really care which one. So I've been going colas. But I mean, for years I was going Dr. Pepper hard because I'm from Texas. So, but I don't have a distinct one.
We are not going to rank the Sharknado movies.
No. People ask me to rank the Sharknado movies all the time. We tried. We literally leading up to the release of the new one a month ago or so. 2-3 weeks before that, we're like, let's watch through these. They're all on Netflix. So we started up the first one. We're like, this is exhausting. We haven't even finished the first one. But the problem is when you have movies that are designed to be bad, I don't know what I'm ranking. It's, it's an entertainment product more than a film. And so I couldn't do it. We tried, but it didn't take.
Most anticipated movie of 2019?
I think you have to go Avengers 4. That's where Infinity War ended, and with how much I enjoyed that movie, was totally dug it. I gotta go with that one. Yeah, that's my answer.
Have you tried RC Cola?
Yeah.
Someone asked.
Yeah. Well, you asked it like you were asking. I was like, yeah, you've seen me drink Royal Crown or what is it, cola.
A long time.
I don't drink a ton of it, but I mean, I don't have any issue with it. I just haven't purchased it.
It's like if you mix Dr. Pepper and Coke together.
I guess.
In my opinion. Do you have a favorite magician?
No. No. Yeah, there's nobody that just kind of. Yeah, the nature of musicians, I don't. Yeah, I don't have no. I don't have anything that comes to mind.
Have you seen UHF?
Oh yeah, there's a review on my channel. You actually can. It's old. I mean, this is like the early days when I first started. But there's a review of UHF on my channel. I mean, I've been watching. I first saw it in like 1990 or something like that when it first came out on video. So I've been watching forever. It's good. It's a product of its time. A movie like that would never get made now because you would just make it as a bunch of skits on YouTube. You wouldn't parody skits on YouTube, but you wouldn't need to make a movie of something like that. So it's an interesting product. Would you review Beetlejuice for its 30th anniversary? Probably not. There's never enough interest in things like that. It's always frustrating because there's a lot more things I want to do like that. I have more interest in doing those things than there's interest on the audience side for them. I mean, when I do these things that are kind of out there, they just don't get momentum. It's unfortunately. Mohan Singhal, I'm sorry for messing up your name, with a super chat. Thank you very, very much. Do you think Keanu Reeves is underrated? How would you feel if they spun off the John Wick universe after the third? Feelings about new MIB with Chris Hemsworth. Okay, 3 questions in there.
Holy cow.
Do I think that Keanu Reeves is underrated?
My brain just exploded.
You also use shorthand. So when I first looked at it, I didn't think I was MIB with Christ. I was like, what is this? Oh, Men in Black with Chris Hemsworth. Do I think Keanu Reeves is underrated? I don't think he's underrated. I think he's I think people by now properly view him. He's not a big, great thespian. He has some big blunders. You go watch Much Ado About Nothing, Kenneth Branagh's Much Ado About Nothing from the 90s. He has some weaknesses as an actor, and you can very much see that if you watch that. And that's not a strong point. And he's improved, and people have acknowledged that about you. Watch the original John Wick, and people are like, this is some of his actual best acting in this movie that's not normally one that you would think would be known for the acting. And then also, as an action star, after John Wick, people went, no, he's this guy's fully legit. One of the, like, he might have been viewed as underrated because people knew him obviously from Point Break, The Matrix, but it was like, oh, well, there's just some good movies. But then he did this movie when he's 50 years old. He does John Wick, and it's like, this is great. There's no way around it. This actor is doing amazing things. So I don't think he's underrated. I think he's very properly. I think people properly see him. Would you? What's your take on it? You hate Keanu Reeves, so what's your take?
I don't hate Keanu Reeves. I think he's underrated as a human being.
Yes, that'd be true.
A lot as a person.
Yeah,
you hear a lot of the.
You hear the stories,
interviews and stuff. I really like him.
Yeah, if you hear stories about him and kind of the things he's gone through, watch interviews. He's a great guy. But I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
That's okay. But as an actor, when he's put in the right role, then he's satisfactory, meets objective. He just isn't in movies that I like to watch when he's at his best.
When you see, like Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, he's great in those movies because he's able to play
John Wick, but again, not my thing.
You watch The Matrix, where he's just kind of like this guy that's like, whoa. I mean, it works. You put him in Shakespeare.
Not good.
Not a great plan. How would you feel if they spun off John Wick universe after the third? Well, they're doing the Continental. They've already said they're doing a spin-off TV show, which I'm fascinated to see how that's going to turn out. So they're already kind of doing that, which I'm game for. So I'll let to say, yeah, I'm down for it. I mean, I have to know what the pitch was if you're talking about another movie. If they said they were going to do a Continental movie instead of the Continental TV show, I think I'm down for it. But I have to know what the idea is, because John Wick it pops because they built such a good world. And they take a very simple kind of action movie setup, but they built a great world and then had great action design for it. And you put all that together and it works. So you still have the world, you can still get the director back and have the great style to it, but do you have another character that you want to see in that world? Because part of the fun of it is they created another one of these iconic action hero characters in John Wick that's just so distinctive, tied to all this. Who do you put in there besides John Wick? Or do you just do the Continental? The Continental seems to be what you would have to do, but they're already doing the TV show. And what are my feelings about a Men in Black with Chris Hemsworth? I don't know who the director is on it. I forget who the director is on it. Or maybe I didn't. It's no one I even know who it is. So, generally speaking, sounds good to me. I think Chris Hemsworth is a very funny person. I don't know if he's underrated because Thor Ragnarok just kind of was so funny that people kind of pulled around on a lot of. You can't deny that the guy's got great comedic timing. But a lot of these comedies that he's done over the last 3-4 years, the movies themselves weren't great. People did not like them, but he's really funny in them. Like, he's the standout in a lot of these movies. So the idea that he's doing Men in Black, which action sci-fi, perfect for him. Comedy, great for him. And it's a big franchise that I think, maybe he could shine in. So I think I'm all on board on it. But it kind of comes down to if you get the right director that has that right quirky weirdness to it to nail the tone.
You and your wife's favorite American Horror Story season.
We've never seen an episode. You've seen 0 episodes. And based off the title, she'd never watch it. So, and I hate that graphic of the head with the, what is that, the beehive and the skull thing. I hate that image. I hate that stuff. Like, things like that weird me out. So I've never seen an episode. I barely even know what the show's about. I've heard great things about it, but I just haven't seen anything. And with the channel, and it's so established that I don't know that I'll ever try and play catch up.
Weird question. This is what they said. Why did you see Hotel Transylvania 3 if you didn't see the previous movies?
To take my family, because it was free.
It was a press screening.
It was a press screening. We got invited, and they said I could bring my whole family, and they're going to have face painting. It was actually a whole story. So I was down for it. Like, take my whole family to a movie for free. That's $30 worth of movie tickets or more for free. And then face painting and the whole day of cool activities. That's awesome. Then we showed up late, and so we missed face painting. My daughter was upset and everything. But, I mean, it just, like, this is a job for me now. This is a way that I make money. It's a really important kind of revenue stream for our family right now. I was interviewing for other jobs, was looking to do a career transit, all sorts of things we were exploring to do. And then last November, there was enough success on YouTube that we went, let's see where this goes. And so then this became basically my second full-time job. So part of that is whatever you're, if they let you go see this movie, you go see this movie. And if they let you go see this movie, you go see this movie. So that's essentially what happened. I don't know if I would have reviewed it otherwise. I guess seen it otherwise because I didn't end up doing a review. I mentioned it in other places, but I didn't do a full proper review on my channel. But that's kind of the way it works, is that you see movies like that.
What do you think of Spider-Man PS4 on a scale of 1 to 10?
I did a review, so I mean I have a review where I kind of say my full thoughts on it. I don't play enough games to be able to give a 0 to 10 score. To be able to score things like that and have it mean anything, you have to watch enough things, see enough things, to have because it's comparative language. If this is a 10 and this is a 0, you're trying to level out the degrees to things. I don't play enough games to be able to do that. What I can say as someone that doesn't play a lot of games is that it's a great game. With great world design, a story that I could follow. For my skill level, I could play through things. There were a few levels I got very frustrated on. But in general, I mean, so if I were to give a score on it, she saw it. I mean, it would be way up there, like 9s, 10. I mean, it's something like that up there for me. But I don't play enough games to be able to. There's all these people. Have you played Uncharted? Have you played Gears of War? Have you played? And I haven't. And when you haven't played games that other people are saying 10s, then you don't have a good point of reference to be able to say, well, this is a 10. Well, then maybe I'm going to play a real 10 game a week from now and go, oh, maybe it's only a 9. Which goes back to all these discussions about general. I've been having this last week about audience scores versus critic scores because of Venom. And there's a lot of people that hate critics and wave their fingers at critics. And I understand the frustration. I understand why there's a disconnect and everything like that. But the thing is that movie critics see 100 plus movies every year. This year I've already watched about 250 movies. And I've watched about 60, 70 new releases this year. And I've thought about, of these movies I've seen, probably 150, 200 of them analytically, critically to do a ranking video. In which case, when you do that, you start to have much more discernment in where you kind of rank things and score things. Whereas a random audience member goes and sees 12 new movies per year, 20 new movies per year, versus 200. And you start thinking about it in those terms, and you get more discerning. You notice things. I'm not like that with video games. That's why I normally talk movies. And why I don't want to give a number to it. That was a very long answer to a question to say I'm not going to answer your question.
Favorite movie theater food?
Popcorn. Popcorn is what we always go for.
How often do you get popcorn and or drink at the movies?
75% of the time? Maybe 75? Maybe 60%. I'm not really sure.
Arnold or Sigourney?
That's a weird question. What's the
There's
comparison? No. What's the context of
which one would you pick? Did you watch a movie?
I mean, Sigourney Weaver's obviously the better thespian, but as for whose movies would I choose to watch, have I chosen to watch, have I chosen to buy, that I spent far more of my life entertained by, Arnold Schwarzenegger by like 10 miles. Because, I mean, he's not a great thespian. He's an amazing entertainer, though. In his window, he knew what he was good at, and he nailed it.
Oh, sorry. Have you seen the movie Brothers?
No.
Have you watched Fringe?
Yeah, I haven't watched all of it. We watched about season 1. I think we've seen season 1 of Fringe. So I haven't seen a ton. And I like a lot of the bad robot TV shows, that J.J. Abrams stuff. It's kind of like the new X-Files, or not new anymore, but the X-Files-y type things from about 10 years ago. I just never connected with it. It just never worked for me the way it did for other people. So I've seen about one season, and it was mostly homework to try and do that.
Tips to get likes, comments, and views up while staying or being a small channel.
If you're the secret to getting likes, views, subscribers, all that fun stuff is to make great content and keep improving. And that's not a fun answer. It's not a sexy answer or anything like that. It's not like, oh, wow, make great content. But at the end of the day, if people watch your content and they like it, then they'll subscribe. My channel, it took me 9 months to get my first 1,000 subscribers. This week alone, I've added 4,000 subscribers. And the reason for that isn't that I learned some, like, here's the trick that I figured out. It's that my content got better. I grew. I continually evaluated what I was doing and improved things. You can watch my old videos, and they're not nearly as good as my current ones. Pretty much everything before my channel started to grow, I wish there was a way for me to replace it with a new video. Like, I want to redo all of my first 50 rankings or so because I don't like the way I did them. I don't think they were very good. So a lot of it is just keep working on making better content. And there's a lot of people that kind of, they're just trying to, they want the trick. And the reality is, like, they're like, hey, can you give me at my channel a shout out? Hey, can we collab? I think if I appeared on your channel, my channel would start to grow. It's very rare that the reason your channel isn't growing is exposure. It's usually that you're not ready yet to really start to take off. And that's it. Like, before I started my channel, I'd been public speaking for over 10 years and editing video for about 15 years. So I came in and started with a ton of background of speaking, articulating things, and editing video. And it still took me about 500 videos and a year and a half to get good at it. And once I got good at it, after a year and a half, 500 videos, things really started to grow. Some quick questions I've seen somewhere in there. Someone asked me, do I prefer the Dark Knight trilogy or the Matrix trilogy? The Dark Knight trilogy. The Matrix trilogy is not good. It's one excellent movie and two not excellent movies. The much better trilogy is the Dark Knight. I saw some other ones in here real quick. Someone said Michael Scott or Ron Swanson. Michael Scott's a more rounded character. They're both great, though. So, yeah, I like both of them. Someone asks, Darian Scott, why do people hate The Last Jedi? Because they went in with one expectation of who Luke is, the beacon of hope in the Star Wars universe, the most hopeful character in all Star Wars that was able to redeem Darth Vader, this person that killed younglings. And then they go and see The Last Jedi, and he's a cranky old man that grabs his lightsaber, throws it over his shoulder, and we find out that he lost hope in one of his students and went to kill him. And you either buy that or you don't. Some people go, oh, look, people change over time. Look, it's a story about fallen heroes and their biggest mistake. Okay, yeah. But other people watch that and they go, you just betrayed me. You just ruined Luke. Like, that. This is not right. Like what you just did. So that's the big thing. There's also it feels like there's some agenda in it. It also feels like there's some story issues with Laura Dern's character not sharing information, allowing a mutiny to take place to the point that everybody dies because she didn't go, hey, just so you know, Poe, we're flying over there. Oh, well, then I'm not going to try and do all this stuff. I just wanted to know what was going on. She just didn't tell him. That's not good. That's not great writing. Someone asks, Logan or The Dark Knight? Already answered that in this live stream. Someone asked, do you ever go to early screenings for movies? Yeah, talked about that many times in here. That's how I'm able to get reviews out before the movies come out, because I go to movies early screenings. So I get invited to press screenings. Not all of them. I wish they did, but that'd make my life easier, but not all of them.
Favorite Will Ferrell movie?
Elf.
Would you rank all of his movies?
No, because it's too undefined, and because he's in movies that he's not the star in, and then I just don't want to watch through. I mean, there's when you take an actor like actor rankings are tricky because then it's so many different movies that it's just tricky.
Who would win, Wonder Woman or Thor?
I don't know. I just different universe, different skills. That's not my strong suit. I'm not very good at that. That's not where people ask me to do those rankings all the time, and I don't know what to say.
Thoughts on Nightmare Before Christmas?
Never seen it. No reason. I just never happened. I've just never seen A Nightmare Before Christmas.
Have you seen Band of Brothers?
Nope.
Okay, so the next question doesn't go. I already asked you that. Are you going to see Titans?
I already seen it. I already watched the first episode. Watched it last night. It was better than the trailer. The trailer made it look really bad. The issues of the trailer are in the show. It's trying way too hard to be gritty. It feels like a kid trying to prove, like, look at me, I'm tough. And it's even kind of part of the plot line in it a little bit. So I didn't like that aspect, but the overall story I thought worked. The cast is fine. So it was worth. I'm like, I can't wait to check out the next one. I don't think they necessarily. I don't know if they made a great choice in deciding to do it week to week because it's serialized storytelling. So. Yeah, I don't know.
Sorry.
I'm excited for the next one. I'll just say that.
Better trilogy, Star Wars or Lord of the Rings?
Star Wars. I've said it many times, I'm not the biggest Lord of the Rings fan. It's just not the one that's resonated with me the way that Star Wars has.
Who do you think the funeral in Dark Phoenix will be for?
I don't have any guesses. I don't have any theories. I haven't analyzed it on that level to try and guess.
Hey. Do you read comics?
Do I read comics? I read some. I don't necessarily watch or read a ton of them. I normally buy graphic novels. Like my friend Andy just loaned me this one to check out. I was reading the first of the Batman vs. Predator ones when that baby was born. Bought a bunch of other graphic novels that I took with me. I got the DC Universe largely because they have a big archive of comics that I can read on my phone in the middle of the day. So,
who did you like better, Andrew Garfield or Tobey Maguire? I assume for Spider-Man.
Yeah, I've got a video about that, so you can give my more detail. I don't remember which one. I think I said Andrew Garfield actually over Tobey Maguire. Because it's a little bit more well-rounded. And you think of it as an adaptation of the character and what are teenagers like in this decade. It just seemed a little bit more well-rounded, while even the movies aren't, but he was.
What's the most times you've been to the theater for one movie?
I don't know. I think 4. Maybe 5. A Star Wars movie from some point in time.
We saw Star Trek a ton of times.
Yeah, but we didn't see it 5 times. I don't think.
Favorite Christian-based movie?
I don't know. Favorite Christian-based movie? I thought The Case for Christ last year was really good. Feels weird to call it my favorite, though. So I don't know. I don't like to pick favorites. So if you guys are wondering what questions that are frustrating for me to try and answer off the top of my head, favorites are ones like I don't know what one should I go with. So I don't know, but I like Case for Christ last year.
Sorry, I left the screen. What is your greatest life accomplishment?
Getting married and having kids. I don't know what's the greatest life accomplishment. I have no idea beyond things that are just a continuation of the human race and doing things that actually matter, bringing humans into this world and raising them right. It's tough to say that what especially one where it's like tooting my own horn on a business level of sorts. My YouTube channel being successful and like, oh wow, this is something I built on my own in my free time, even though I've got a full-time job, I've wife, kids. This is pretty cool. We had a big impact on a lot of teenagers and what we used to do before, and that's really important. But that's tough to answer that. I mean, there's a lot of people we had a very huge impact on at a important point in time in their life. but I don't know.
Thoughts on James Gunn directing Suicide Squad 2?
We already answered that.
Sorry. Terminator versus Die Hard.
Like the franchises?
I think so.
I think I would go Terminator. Yeah, because I think that one has 2 excellent movies. Die Hard has 1 excellent movie, 1 great movie, and a couple good ones, and 1 horrible one. Yeah, I think I'd go Terminator. I think the bottom of the barrel, that last Die Hard movie, is the worst of all those ones. So I think that's what I'd say.
Thoughts on Joaquin Phoenix's Joker?
I don't really like to have strong thoughts based off of just a picture or like, this little doo-doo-doo, him walking out of a subway or things like that. It's not immediately what I would think, oh, that's what I want for the Joker, but this entire movie isn't what I want for the Joker. Like, I'm confused by the project as a whole. Like, what, the director of The Hangover, produced by Martin Scorsese with Joaquin Phoenix and Batman's not in it? What? So I don't know what to make of the movie. I need to see a trailer before I can even have any idea of even what they're trying to do with it. So I don't know what to make of it.
Supposedly there's a super chat we missed.
From
Mustang GT5.
Oh, there we go. Sorry about that. Mustang GT5. Will you ever watch the DCCW TV shows? Will I ever? I watched Arrow from day one. I bootlegged The Flash 2 months before it came out to watch the pilot for it. So I'm all caught up on The Flash and Arrow. I do watch them, and I've reviewed them on my channel, and I've ranked the seasons of Arrow and The Flash. So I don't fully understand the question. I talked about them a lot on my channel in the past. I'm not caught up on Supergirl. And the show just kind of exhausted me a little bit with the melodrama, and it just felt like their focus was in a weird direction with the relational melodrama. So I'm not caught up on that one. And then Legends of Tomorrow, I saw season 1, and then there are good things that corrected in season 2, and just some stuff that I just found off-putting with season where they kind of went, especially the White Canary, and just being so over the top. Like a cat in heat and just prowling on everyone. So I'm not caught up on that one. And we watched the first couple episodes of Black Lightning. The problem is that they don't they're not on Hulu anymore. And so then I have to watch it on my laptop or stream my laptop to the TV. Any number of things that are just kind of frustrating, more difficult ways to watch shows because I can't watch them live because of the kids, and it's just tricky. So it makes it difficult for me to keep up on some of these shows. But I've thoroughly enjoyed, talked about Arrow and The Flash a lot.
Do you think Kerry Russell will play Ashoka in the new Star Wars movie?
That's the girl that Chloe talks about. Anakin's Padawan with the things in her head. Ahsoka Tano.
Oh.
Yeah, you're looking at me like I'm crazy.
Ahsoka is how I normally say when we're talking with Chloe. That looks like Ashoka. So it looks like I didn't recognize them.
So I assume that's who they're. I'm not reading what was written there. Do I think Kerry Russell? I don't. Is she was cast in the movie? That's right. I don't know. I don't have any guesses onto that. That'd be an interesting tie-in. It seems like they're trying to squeeze in some of these Clone Wars references into there, so it's possible. But that's a pretty big time gap. That's a lot of life for her. Because we saw her in Rebels, so we'd be 35 years more after Rebels. So she's pretty old.
Do you draw?
No. I got wobbly hands.
Did you ever watch The Godfather or Goodfellas?
Yeah, of course. I've seen all those great movies. I've only seen Goodfellas once. So I need to see that one again. I've seen The Godfather 1 and 2 several times. I've never seen The Godfather 3. No particular reason. I mean, obviously everyone says it's not as good as the first two, but that's not even why I haven't seen it. I just haven't seen it. So some of it's just because so big to suck them all in and everything. Just it's a bit of a chore.
Do you think the Deadpool movie was way overrated?
The Deadpool movie? There's
That's
two.
what it says.
That's no, I don't think it was overrated because people didn't like try and give it Oscars. People didn't try and they just really enjoyed it. They had a lot of fun, and it's a fresh new type of thing, and when there's something fresh and new, people get excited about it. So it makes sense to me that people got excited about it, talked about it, thought it was funny. And so I don't think it's overrated because of the way people talk about it, the way people treat it, I think was the appropriate space for people to be excited about it.
Arnold or Stallone?
Arnold's the better entertainer, Stallone's the better actor and filmmaker. I'm not going to pick between the two.
Nice. Have you seen The Shallows?
No, she has.
I have.
You have to give us your review.
Oh, I do?
Yeah, it has to be amazing.
Oh, well, I don't have a YouTube channel for a reason. I thought it was very well made. Maybe not as entertaining as I prefer my shark movies to be. It was suspenseful, but almost too realistic, if that makes any sense. Like, I don't know that you'll be able to stomach it, to be perfectly honest.
It's a movie.
I know, but...
All right, we got some of these quick ones people are throwing in there. Coogler versus Russo brothers. Russo brothers? It's tough to say because Coogler's done such different things, and we've seen a lot of Russos doing one thing. It's tough to say because they're doing the reason that I would pick either one, wildly different reasons. So I don't really like to pick Rocky or Karate Kid. How dare you make me pick Rocky? I got to go with Rocky, but that is sick that you would make me choose like that. That is wrong. Yeah.
There's requests for ranking of Friends.
No, not gonna happen. Probably never happen. I mean, I've seen all the seasons, so I've seen all the seasons through one time. But I've seen seasons like 1 through 5 scattershot a ton. But it's those later seasons. I watched them when they first came out. I'm not going to watch all 10 seasons just to do a ranking video of Friends. I don't want to.
Why do you think American production companies can't adapt Japanese comics properly? For example, Netflix Death Note, Dragon Ball Evolution, etc.
Because they're cultural. They're cultural. The things that make them work in the original format is that that make them interesting is that they're very Japanese, and the way the storytelling's done and things about them, that the way that people would resonate with them is things that are not immediately what is perceived of as mainstream in the United States and America. And so then Hollywood goes, oh, that's cool, that's successful, let's pull that over here. And then they try and Americanize it. And so then Death Note is suddenly about a guy and his girlfriend and their relationship, and it just gets off. Like the stuff that made the original thing work, it's watered down, and they simplify things, and sometimes there's legitimate cultural things that are just missing. And it just doesn't work for that reason. Of they're taking something that worked in one cultural context and just very much doing a watered down version of it, and not a great translation. If you've watched one of my live streams before, my nose starts to itch the longer I talk. And so if I keep touching my nose and my nose is turning red, it's because literally the longer I talk, the more my nose itches.
I can't pronounce the dog's name, but some more requests for that review for the dog's tail.
Yeah, so
I don't know how to say it.
Yeah, so someone asks me 5 times. He asks me all the time to review Hayachi the dog's tail or whatever. It's probably not going to happen. Most movies that if you're like, hey, can you watch and review this one standalone movie? Probably not. For the simple fact of the matter, there's just not interest from people. And so to do that means I'm not doing something else. And whenever I do kind of those standalone reviews, they're always my lowest viewed thing in the whole month. Consistently. If you're here, be sure to read the description. I answer a few questions on there as to what questions you should and shouldn't ask. And if some of you guys, if you see people asking questions that I've already answered, if you can just kind of politely say, hey, he already answered that earlier. Because sometimes we're trying to sort
of... We
of...
don't want people to think we're ignoring
Yeah,
it.
there's a ton of questions kind of coming through about, hey, can you rank the Walking Dead seasons? Hey, what did you think about Logan versus The Dark Knight? And there's a lot of these things I've already talked about, I've already answered, and then people ask them again, and I don't want to answer the same thing multiple times in a video. Like, yeah, people keep asking the same things over and over.
In your top 10, you said that the original Superman was one of your favorites. So do you prefer Superman over Batman? And if so, why?
I don't prefer one over the other. Depends on when you ask me, I'll pick one of them as my favorite. I think that there's a simple reason. They stand for two archetypes. The DC model is much more, let's take these archetypical type ideas. One being the God-man in Superman, who's the benevolent person that's here to save the world. And so the idea of someone that has all power and chooses it to use it for the good of all people, that's a very inspiring thing. And then with Batman, it's the idea of what if someone took the most horrific thing imaginable and decided to dedicate their entire life to perfecting themselves so that they can stop anyone else from having that same suffering. Both of those are inspiring stories of people sacrificing essentially their life while they're living it for others. That's very powerful and inspiring. And they're both very different. One's the God-man, one is the man that tries to make the best of himself. So they're both very interesting. The reason I picked Superman over Batman is that it's just my upbringing. If you look at my list of favorites, it's all movies that I grew up watching. It's all things from the 70s and 80s. I don't even think there's anything in the 90s. Well, maybe Terminator 2 I think is in there. So there's nothing after 1991, I don't think. I think it's all 1976 to 1991, this very narrow window of time. Because my favorites are movies I have the most emotional connection to, which is my upbringing, the movies that made me love movies. So they're not interesting. It's not an interesting list at all. It's very generic because they're the movies from before I got very fine-tuned and started knowing how to research things. It's the movies that made me love movies and want to dig deeper. Those are the ones that I pick as my favorites. And Superman the movie is an incredible accomplishment. It's because there wasn't comic book movies before that. And it took the material so much more serious than anyone thought that you could. They were comic books were thought as things for kids, and then suddenly they make this movie that's for everyone. And so it's an incredible accomplishment. It's it's a very strong movie. Crimson Thriller 245 says, how do you make time to work out? I go normally once a week before work. I go Saturday mornings, and then I normally go one day a week after work. That's in general what I try to do. So I only work out about 3 days per week, not long sessions. Like when I go before work, I only go for about 30 minutes. Saturdays, when I go in the morning, that's probably the longest I go for, but it's still only an hour and 15 minutes. JNS Productions, can you rank all 21 Marvel movies? I don't know what you're asking me. I've ranked all the MCU movies, and there's over 50 if you count all Marvel movies. You've asked that multiple times. I don't know what you're asking, because can you rank all 20 Marvel movies, including movies? I don't know what that means. We got...
Are you ready?
No.
Did you see Atonement?
We saw Atonement on like our
Is that our anniversary?
At our 1 year anniversary. It was actually our 1 year and 3 month wedding anniversary getaway. And she's like, I got this romantic movie.
I read the book.
She read the book, and
we got the movie from the gift shop.
Oh my goodness, I hated it. It
was terrible.
It's just so dark. Not my thing at all. Just so tragic and depressing. Like, this is an unpleasant journey of. This is not Atonement. When I think the word atonement, it's not this.
I apologize because you might have already addressed this one, but are you going to watch the new Halloween movie, and are you a fan of Michael Myers?
We've already talked about this. I'm going to see it Thursday night. I'm going to go in with Hector.
Oh, awesome!
Yeah, we're going with Hector. And as I said, right there on that TV is Halloween 2 paused because I'm rewatching all the movies to be able to rank them next Saturday. But yeah, of course I'm seeing it.
What do you want to see in Jurassic World 3?
I didn't have any expectations. They kind of dropped a bomb at the end of that movie. It's like, I don't know where you're going with this. I don't know what Like they're like, hey, we've got human clones, but we don't know where. There's just like all these ideas and like dinosaurs and like just explore like ideas, but not a real direction. So I have no idea what I want to see with it, and I don't even know what you do with where they left things.
Have you reviewed? And I'm sorry, this is me asking because I didn't know the answer. Have you reviewed M. Night Shyamalan's movies?
No, I haven't seen all of them. There's like a 10-year window where I haven't seen any of them because they're bad and I didn't want to. But I plan to. I'm going to rank all of them after Glass comes out.
Sorry.
Gamer Girl says, we'll be doing Christmas vlogs when Christmas season comes. I'll do something like that. If interesting things happen, I'm sure I'll do some stuff with that because it's interesting enough. So I'll try to. But it's tricky because it's trying to add one more video that I'm trying to create on my channel. And then, she's like, why are you filming everything we're doing? She doesn't want to be on camera. So it gets a little bit tricky at times. But, it's... Someone says, why haven't you watched Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.? Am I supposed to? Because I want to have my channel. To watch 6 seasons of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is about 20 hours per season. So we're talking about 100 hours of me not watching movies for my channel to catch up on a show that I don't enjoy. That would seem to be a bad life choice to do that.
Do you know when the next live stream will be?
No clue.
Okay.
I in theory, I'm trying to do them on Wednesday afternoons at about 4 o'clock Central Time. But then again, I have no plans to do this one today, but we hadn't done one in a while. She could probably join me. I was kind of feeling sick today, so I didn't think I'd be able to shoot a video and edit it, so I was like, I should do a live stream today, but no.
I have, let's see, it's 9:37. I have 3 more questions. We just got a super chat.
A super chat?
From Caleb Pace, 80s film with the best soundtrack. He'd say Rocky.
Rocky 4. Thank you so much for the super chat. 80s film with the best soundtrack. All right, so the ones that I can say I've listened to extensively as a human being on vinyl. Because growing up, that's we had at my house, and we could rent them from the library. So what are the ones I got a lot? Well, we owned Top Gun. So I know all of the Top Gun songs very, very well. Rocky 4, absolutely got that record all the time. Listen to that one. And as of right now, if you check my Apple Music playlist, it will have the Rocky 4 soundtrack in heavy rotation right now. It's one that I've been frequently listening to, Hearts on Fire, a lot recently. Other big ones, great soundtracks. Is that score though, not soundtrack? Soundtrack's normally songs.
Yes, I'm sorry, you're right.
So the Back to the Future has got those great Huey Lewis songs that I've also listened to all the time, plus a great score. So those are the ones that immediately come to mind. But even Rocky 4 would be in my list, probably there too.
Rambo or Rocky?
Rocky's the much better character in franchise. Rambo kind of went off the rails with the second one. Became like an 80s product. I mean, Rocky did that too with Rocky 3 and 4 and turned into... stopped being movies, started being 80s movies, and then just became 80s entertainment. And this Rocky 4 is just so over the top. But Rocky has there's more high points. Whereas with Rambo, it's like one great one and then ones that are entertaining. But very simple, tonally gigantic shift in ways that didn't... I don't know. Yeah, Rocky's just a better franchise. Ugh, sorry. Like I said, my nose itches.
I know, that's what I was telling you. We should probably... thoughts on Gremlins 3?
Is there any action? I haven't heard anything about that actually happening. I wouldn't do a Gremlins 3. I would just do a reboot of Gremlins if you're going to do it, because it's, by the time that would come out, it'd be 30 years since the last one came out. That's a weird way to do a sequel for a franchise that's not that well known. Not that it's obscured, of course not. But it's especially as a franchise, people remember the first one. They remember Gremlins, but Gremlins 2 was kind of a weird direction to go for the sequel. And so people don't really remember that one too much in the mainstream. And so it would be very weird to do a sequel at this point in time, whereas I would think you would do a remake. So yeah, we'll go just a few more minutes. She's got a few more questions. If you do have a super chat, if you definitely want me to answer your question, throw it in there real quick. Otherwise, we'll close things up in about 6 minutes and 72 seconds.
Have you watched the YouTube channel How It Should Have Ended?
Yeah, all the time. Yeah. My son, as soon as I showed him those things, he was in love. And we have to double check to make sure they're okay. Some of them are too violent for him, and he gets way too into the ones that are violent.
Yeah, a little disturbing. Someone asked if you watched the show Gotham.
Yeah, I didn't. I'm about halfway through the last season, so I'm behind on it. I didn't catch up. I find it. Oh, that one might have been a gross one.
Ew.
Sorry about that. So I'm not caught up enough to, and I didn't enjoy it enough to have strong thoughts to even be able to rank it. But it's intriguing enough that I'm like, I'm going to kind of keep watching this out of curiosity. But it's never fully worked for me in the concept of look, here's Batman becoming Batman and his little girlfriend Selena Kyle. It never fully works for me. Ugh. Jaws?
Or Jurassic Park?
For me, I'd go Jurassic Park. As to which one I'm more likely to watch and things like that.
I think
Jaws is...
But that doesn't make any sense.
Well, I mean, it's because it's a more watchable movie. Just, when it came out, the budget, it's designed to be much more of a fun, thrilling ride. Whereas Jaws over here is, the 70s thriller type movie that's slower paced and it's not designed to be nearly as rewatchable.
Nice hat, Gary. Thoughts on the Harley Quinn show?
So the show, I think you're talking about the one on DC Universe. I haven't seen the trailer, the clip, or anything like that, so I don't have any thoughts on it. I haven't seen it. As a basic concept, doing a Harley Quinn show seems very dumb to me. It's a very weird thing to do, is to take a character that, by their nature, doesn't have a character arc. They're crazy. That's what makes them interesting, is that they've lost it. They've already become cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Mm-hmm. So the idea of making them the lead in a show when, as a character, they're defined by being connected to this other person who's defined by being connected to this other person. So I don't, as a concept, it's very weird to me.
Didn't you do a Karate Kid ranking?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I ranked the Karate Kid movies. I did.
That's what I thought. Are you gonna see Aquaman?
Yeah.
Do you like his suit?
I'd have to see the movie. I don't like to determine too much of those things. I've seen a lot of it. I haven't hated the suit. I didn't love that final reveal, but I didn't hate it. It was interesting to me.
We got a super chat
from
Naveen Dravid. Quick opinions on Nightmare Before Christmas.
So we actually already answered that one not too long ago. I haven't seen it. There's no particular reason. I've just never seen it. The moment never occurred or anything like that for me to sit down and watch it. That Tim Burton kind of world of stuff has never been the thing that's been my most thing to be drawn towards. She doesn't like anything kind of creepy like that. So I just haven't seen it.
Showing the kids.
So it just hasn't happened, unfortunately, to have any thoughts on it. I'm so sorry about that. Someone asks, have I seen Alias? Yeah, I loved Alias. This dog right here, his full name is Jack Bo Bristow, named after Sidney Bristow's dad. So we loved seasons 1 through 3. I love, and then it kind of went off the rails in 4 and 5. But great closing line, the last episode where it kind of resolved for Jack and Arvin Sloane, and I thought the way that ended out, I really dug the final moment there.
I don't remember that.
Oh, it's a good one. I can't say it because it's a spoiler, but exactly what goes down. But it's good.
Have you seen Peter Jackson's King Kong?
Yeah. It's too long. Takes a little too long to get going. When it works, it really works. Like that, the fight where King Kong versus the T-Rex is wonderfully directed. Yeah, wonderfully. I mean, just very exciting, cool sequence. So, yeah, but it just goes on so long that it kind of wears you out by the end of it, and then it takes too long to get going. So it's not a fully great movie, but it almost could have been. Sorry, I'm very sorry. If you missed it, my nose just gets itchier and itchier as I talk. So we're closing out right now. So get your final questions in here. We'll try and answer as many as we can before my nose becomes fully disgusting.
They're asking what our favorite genre of movies is. I don't know. I don't know if
Action, adventure, sci-fi, comedy, something in there. Things that are kind of those. It's kind of exciting.
Hybrids.
Yeah, things that are exciting, but then make you laugh a little bit.
Like Indiana Jones.
Yeah, Indiana Jones or
Star Trek.
Yeah.
Like things that have all the elements mixed into one. So
and that's, likewise like the Marvel movies, that's what they are. They've got they're obviously action, they also got comedy, sci-fi, fantasy. They touch on a ton of stuff.
Do you like pro wrestling?
I don't have any issues with pro wrestling. It's just never been one that I followed or been all that into. I've sort of tried to tease it to my son because I thought that could be a fun thing for us to kind of get into together. So the short answer is no, not really. But it's something that I'd be very open to if my son got into it, for us to have this thing that we kind of followed along. I think that'd be a cool thing for us to kind of watch like that as a family.
Someone's suggesting we give at least season 1 of American Horror Story a shot.
It's just so the problem right now is that I have to watch so many things just for this channel, whether TV shows or movies, and when I'm already so far behind on a show, it feels like homework to try and catch up. It doesn't. If I just want something, I'm gonna just fall into. I'm gonna put The Office on. I'm gonna watch something I've already watched. That it's not. I don't have to pay attention to it. So that's where it gets tricky to kind of try to check out shows right now because we're just so busy with watching stuff for the channel.
Rocky or Star Wars?
I don't know.
I'd choose Rocky, just for the record.
I don't know how you. It's just too different of a thing. It very much.
If you had to watch one series forever, like you're stuck on an island and you can only pick one, do you pick Star Wars or do you pick Rocky?
I think it was Star Wars.
Really?
Yeah, because they're more just entertainment that you can throw on. Sitting down to watch the original Rocky, you're sitting down to watch a drama. It's not like, and then it's by the time you get to number 4, it's just like, oh yeah, just this kind of fun, goofy, over the top thing. But at the beginning, it's when they're good, they're like real serious drama films. All right, what do we got here? We got here Michael Rohek. With the super chat. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. Hello from Poland. Oh, that's awesome. We got people all over the world watching. That is crazy that that's a thing. That right now I'm answering the question of someone that in Poland that's watching. That's crazy the way it's all works. Bucky as new Cap, your opinion. All right. I think Chris Evans, Captain America's toasts in this movie. I think he's done. I think he's going to go out as a soldier. And I think it's very possible that Bucky takes over. That's a cool arc. That's a neat arc right there of the guy that's the friend that helped him, to the guy that's dead, to the guy that's a villain, to the guy that's the anti-hero, to the guy that loops back around and becomes the hero, becomes Captain America. That's a pretty cool little arc. So I think I'm down for that, and I think it's very possible. It's got comic book history that would back potentially something like there's the reason to think things like that could happen. I'd be a lot more interested in Bucky taking over than Falcon. A lot more interested. I'm not. Falcon taking over in that role isn't very interesting to me. But Bucky, because of the relationship, the history and everything, that pulling around, looping around, and then he takes over, I think that could be pretty cool.
Australia.
Well, that's fun. And real quick as we kind of close out, if you guys want to just say where you guys are at, if you just say in the comment section, kind of read some of these ones off. If you want to give me a question and we can...
I always wanted to go to Australia, but I'm terrified I'll be murdered by a shark spider. Like, they've got the biggest, scariest things in Australia.
It's a very strange fear.
Oh.
If you can give me a good closeout question, then we'll kind of read off where some of these people are at when they...
When you were growing up, did you ever consider going into filmmaking?
Yeah, absolutely. My friends and I made movies. My friends and I still kind of make movies. I've written scripts. We wrote scripts. We made a dumb movie, like a whole hour-long movie. When I was in church world, I made a ton of little video project type things. Thought about it a lot. The problem is going into filmmaking is that it's not like a job you just go into. It's not something where you can just make it happen. With this channel, I could just by force of will do it and make the channel happen. With a movie, there's so much more to it of just trying to get people together, getting financing, so much stuff. And even in writing a script, it's just not an easy thing to do. So, you really have to move to Los Angeles. Don't really want to do that. And then there's no guarantee you'll get to make a movie. So that's where it's a thing that's difficult for me to imagine pursuing the dream in that regard. My friends and I have talked about self-financing like a $30,000 movie. Talked about, like, I've brainstormed script. I wrote a treatment for a script and everything. Spent a bunch of time working on it. So there's potential that my buddies and I might do something on a small scale, something like that. But the idea of like going to Hollywood, that's not on the table. All right, some people started throwing out where they're at. Anthony Gonzalez is in Texas. Woo! We're in Texas. Declan is in Kansas. Mia is in Boston. Mustang is in Montana. Jaden is in Canada. I guess they say Canada. Most people do. Bri is in North Carolina. Oh, my nose. Goodness. Mr. Fig is in Boston. Do we already have a Boston? We got 2 Bostons in here. That's cool. You guys are probably best friends. Sam is in Phoenix. Hey, Sam. Hugh is in Australia. DJ. Whoa, it jumped on me. I lost it.
Indiana. Oh, wait, no, that was...
I lost it. It did something funky. We got Hunter is in Germany. Sohandro is in Sacramento. We got Chicago. Hamish in Australia. Miss Fig is in, wait a minute, North Korea now. Somebody's switching location. Shaviti is in San Francisco. Fun times. Any fun? You got one more fun question for me?
Do you think that streaming is ruining TV and film?
No, I think it's changing it. And I think it's always changed. VHS, people, is this ruining movies? Knew that people can't watch, people are watching movies on home and it's small and the rest, it's ruining. No, movies change. Television changes. And it provides new ways for people to get content out there. It provides new ways for people to tell stories, new ways for Hollywood to do things. And so, like being able to binge watch TV and design a season, like what they do with Stranger Things and Daredevil, where you're designed to watch it in a weekend, that would be, those seasons wouldn't really work in the old model where you would watch that over 3 months and you'd be confused because you're like, what happened? Because it's all so intricately, tightly woven, so you're able to remember what happened in episode 1 by the time you get to the last episode. That's all because of streaming. And there's a bunch of movies that are now being released on Netflix, and Netflix hasn't figured out movies yet. They're not great yet. But they will. They'll figure it out eventually. There's been a few I like that have come out. There have been a few things that have worked on there. But eventually they'll crack the code of how to do comedies and small action movies and dramas on Netflix.
All the Boys I Loved Before was really good, just in case anyone cares.
And that's a small, like the type of movie that fits on the format. You don't need to see that on a big screen. You need to see Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol on a big screen to see this Dubai sequence. You don't need to see a rom-com in that setting. And so I think if you think through things in that regard, it's not about is it ruining it. It's changing it. And some of the change is bad. It's very bad. But eventually they'll crack the code and it'll get much better. And that's the reality of most things about the human experience, is that new things happen that's awesome, and then you realize it's awful, and then you realize, no, there's all this other potential. There's these new things you can do with this that's going to change the game. So there you have it. My nose has become very red.
Someone tried to suggest that your nose was better and you should talk longer. We got Pakistan, Chile, Alabama, San Francisco, Indiana, London, Pennsylvania, Malaysia. West Virginia.
Very nice, very nice.
All over the
So
place.
we're going to close off the stream in about 30 seconds, but I'll stick around for a few more minutes and I can type answers to your questions. I can type answers to questions much quicker than I can say them, because if I say them, then I go long-winded, but I can just write your answers real quick. So especially if you got quick answers, quick questions,
There's a couple good ones you can
just
answer
I'll
fast.
stick around. So you just stick around a few more minutes and maybe make sure this works. Yeah, it just worked. So I'm closing out, and I'll try and throw a whole bunch of answers in there. Thank you guys so much for watching. See you next time. I might have a video on, or might have a live stream Wednesday. Come back rather than later. It'll be at 4:00 Central if I do that. I think I might do that. Real quick, did I just see something happen down here? Oh, real quick, we got one final super chat, and this will close things out. Thoughts on James Gunn and Suicide Squad. I've kind of shared some thoughts a little bit in this video already. My thoughts on James Gunn and Suicide Squad, what I tweeted out when it happened was win, win, win. What I mean by that is James Gunn just got fired from the MCU, so there's potential that his name could be a little bit sour in the movie industry, not music industry. This is a win for him. It's a big, prominent thing. It's a redemption path. That's a win for him. It's a win for WB because he's a guy that has nerd cred. He's a good director. He's a strong enough personality that can't get whipped around by them too much. So they scored a guy that gets people's attention, gets good buzz for them. I think that's a win. And I think it's a win for us as well, the general public, because I think he's a good fit. I think he fits this project because he's got a dark sense of humor. That fits the Suicide Squad by nature. It's dark. It's grimy stuff. That's him. This is the guy that wrote the Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead. He wrote the script for that. I was just thinking now that he worked with Zack Snyder before. Now he might be heading over to the DCU. That's interesting. I hadn't thought about that till this moment. He worked with Troma. He wrote those tweets that got him fired 10 years ago. And there's pretty nasty stuff. Like some of my biggest issues with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 is how dark he went. That fits Suicide Squad. That's what I want from Suicide Squad, in which case that's a win. He's done ensembles. That's what Suicide Squad was. So I think it's a win-win-win. That's my final thoughts on it. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you want me to write quick answers to your questions, I'll stick around for a few minutes. Normally when I do that, I can answer everybody's questions, and it gets a little bit awkward because they're like trying to come up with questions. So if you stick around for a few minutes, I can probably answer your question and itch my nose without it awkwardly being me doing this while you guys are watching. You can say bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.